Guys, let me tell you that the economic state of the world will change. And I don't just mean that making money online became totally normally for entrepreneurs. No, I mean there are currently countries struggling with their economy. We have seen this last few months, especially in Europe, with changes in interest rates, the war between Russia and Ukraine, and the economic consequences. And this is currently one of the reasons why a lot of investors holding their money back. But guys, let me tell you, in 10 to 20 years, there will be another opportunities to invest in another continents and another countries and starting businesses there, which can turn out very huge for you. And mainly, I'm currently talking about the continent Africa, which will give you the best chance of your lifetime to build generational wealth in the next few years. Let's dive in, guys. When we think about Africa, we mainly think about pictures like this here, showing poverty, I would say extreme poverty, young, malnourished children used by organizations, and instability. And yes, we also have political instability right now. But guys, let me tell you that this will change. Guys, what we currently see in a lot of countries in Africa, especially when we talk about Nigeria, Kenya, Morocco, South Africa, Egypt, and Ghana, which represents more than 50% of the GDP in whole Africa, is the highest economic growth in history. Worldwide, there is no economical growth like on the African continent right now. One indicator that the economy in Africa will grow in the next few years extremely is that people are spending more and more money on consumer goods. Africa is currently enjoying the highest rise in consumer spending. More spending means again more demand on consumer goods, and more demand means that more companies will try their luck in Africa and try to bring new products to the new market. Guys, let me explain you why this is happening right now and where the connection to Europe and the US market currently is. There's a simple concept you have to understand. In the past, and I mean in early times, companies in Europe and US produced in their own countries for their own people and own customers. With the rising economy in the Western world and the globalization, these companies looked for ways to produce their own goods with much lower costs to increase their margins. So what they basically did is that they looked for regions where they were able to produce their goods at lower costs. For example, China. And guys, let me ask you one question. You can answer it. Have you noticed what is happening in the recent years in countries like China, Taiwan, India? These countries became world economical players with high influence on the world economy. Markets China, Taiwan, and so on are called emerging markets. But here's the special thing now, and I would say it's quite logical when we think about it. Because the Western world is more and more producing in countries like China, Taiwan, and India and so on, their economies are growing as well. This also means that producing goods in China, Taiwan, and India and so on will become more and more expensive in near future. So next question to you. What do you think will happen next? Exactly the same like between Europe, US, and Asia. Companies all over the world will start to produce in Africa and also will start to offer services from Africa. And this is not a bad thing. It's a good thing, especially for the African economy. Salaries in Africa will increase, the whole wealth in Africa will increase, while poverty and instability will decrease. Sounds like hope, right? Actually it is, yes. And for you, this sounds like a great business opportunity. People like Mark Zuckerberg or Jack Dorsey both are saying that the future could be in Africa. And this is also what we see in figures, because in the last few years, the investments in the African continent, African countries and companies increased. Just one small example. During the COVID pandemic, the investments in African countries increased 2 times faster compared to the investments worldwide. When we look at the African continent between 2015 and 2021, we can see that the investments in the African continent increased 18 times. And guys, when I'm talking about investments, I don't talk only about governments or local investors. No, I talk about the most famous and biggest investors all over the world, like SoftBank, Tiger Global, Founders Fund, and so on. Worldwide players investing in this continent. So guys, let's address the question how you can invest in Africa and capitalize on its growth. But before we do guys, I want to emphasize the importance of providing you with valuable content, especially for your and of course for my success too. I want to see you and me winning this year, okay? So please make sure that you subscribe my channel and let's support each other's growth. Let's do it. So to fully grasp the opportunity, it's important to understand that the stock market in Africa is still not developed yet. Well, it is, but not fully developed. While there are some significant and important exchanges, for example, in South Africa, in Egypt, and Morocco, it could be very difficult for foreign private investors to get into these public markets. So if you really like to invest in the African public markets, there's one way, and I honestly hate this way, but I have to provide you with this information, how to invest in the African markets. One option is investing through ETFs. Like always, it should be noticed that investing in an ETF may be not the best option to quickly amass your wealth. Additionally, upon analyzing the two major ETFs in Africa, their portfolio is not as diversified as one might hope, and this involves, of course, a significant risk. While, of course, I can't give you financial advice, me personally, and that's only my opinion, I would not invest in an African ETF right now. I believe that the best opportunity for you to invest in the African country is by starting your own business. And there are two options we have to consider. Start an online business where you can deliver the people with essential consumer goods. As I mentioned earlier, people in Africa are currently spending more and more money on consumer goods. One product which currently is enjoying a lot of high demand in Africa, believe it or not, are tampons. I don't know how to call it in English. Option 2 is start a business in one of the African countries and focus on delivering other countries with local products rather than focusing on the local market. For example, I can tell you as a Moroccan, I know a lot of people in Morocco which are currently exporting local argan oil from a specific region in Morocco to a lot of different countries, especially to cosmetic companies. Or some guys I know are filling up the argan oil in bottles and sell them on Amazon under their own brand. So being a supplier for high demand African products can be a great opportunity, especially like I mentioned before, foreign companies will be more and more interested in future for producing new products and goods in Africa. Tell me why you should not be the supplier for all these companies. And yes guys, I totally understand, I expect a lot from you. Founding a company in Africa? It seems daunting. But honestly guys, this becomes more and more common in future. 22% of the working age population, which in Africa means 15 to 64 years old, are founding their own companies, guys. This is one of the highest entrepreneurship rates all over the world. And yes guys, we want to see that realistic. It's important to note that of course there are a lot of countries with opportunity, but of course guys, there are a lot of countries with a high corruption, with still political instability, high poverty, extreme poverty, which all in all means a poor infrastructure. So investing in Africa, yes, can be risky. So it's crucial for you that you analyze these risks before you invest in a country in Africa. Especially for those from Europe and North America, it can be really daunting investing in countries in Africa. Okay guys, let me give you one last thought. It's important to remember that our perceptions of the world are often influenced by preconceived notions and biases. When it comes to the topic of Africa, it's easy to fall into that trap and thinking only of poverty and instability in Africa. However, the reality is that Africa is currently experiencing a tremendous growth and presents a wealth of opportunities for investments and business development. Guys, the information from this video is sourced from the famous book Factfulness and Gapminder.com, and also from a study made by Endavia and McKinsey, both of which I highly recommend reading to gain a nuanced perspective and understanding of the current world situation. I'm Samir and I'm on the mission to reach financial success. So make sure you subscribe my channel and join me on this journey. See you in the next videos, guys.